guys, today I'm going to be doing another book review. This is sort of a follow-up to my last book review, and it is Happily Ever After by Kiera Cass. This is sort of all her companion books and novellas in one book. If you don't know, she is famous for writing the series The Selection. So it involves 4 main novellas and then some other little bits at the end. I have read 2 of these already, but I reread them to refresh my mind. So it contains The Prince, The Guard, The Queen and The Favourite. I've read The Prince and The Guard before, and The Queen and The Favourite originally were only ebooks, and then they decided to put them all in this one book. So I'll just give you a quick little review on each one. Also my battery's really low, so I want to get through this quite quickly. I did give this whole book 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I just loved it. It's really nice to get perspectives and to read more about the smaller sort of characters, or not even smaller characters, but the ones that aren't the main ones in the book. So let's just jump right in. Firstly though, I will say this has some beautiful illustrations and beautiful artwork in it. I mean, the cover and the back is just stunning. And then you take it off, the cover has this beautiful crown on it, and inside you've got a map of Aaliyah. It's just gorgeous in all this sort of purple colouring. And then throughout the book there's just some lovely illustrations, which I just think really set the book alight. So there's another one there. So I just thought I'd mention that quickly. It just adds a lovely touch to the book. So the first story is about the Queen, and this focuses on Queen Anne Boleyn, who is Maxon's mother, and it follows her going through her own selection process, which is really interesting to see because it sort of mirrors America's journey. One thing I thought was really interesting is that the dynamic that they had with that Anne Boleyn had, and the other girls in the selection had to deal with Clarkson's mother. She was a drunk and she was very violent at times, and so not only did they have to deal with the pressures of wanting to be Clarkson's future wife, but they had to make sure that they impressed the Queen and sort of kept on her good side, really. But I thought it was a really good story, and I really enjoyed seeing that process. Anne Boleyn, in the selection, you see that she has a lot of headaches, and that is again told again in her own story, how she has all these headaches and things. And Clarkson is really good and takes her to the doctor a lot, but the doctor ends up saying that because of all these headaches and the family history that she has, she might not be able to have kids. And he basically tells Clarkson that he should just dismiss her straight away because he's not going to give her an heir. But Clarkson really doesn't care and basically says to the doctor, watch your mouth because I can get rid of you. And eventually he obviously picks Anne Boleyn as his queen. So that's the first book. The second one is The Prince, which is basically the selection from Maxon's point of view. Again, it's really great to see how he's feeling during that process, because before you only got to see America's side of things. You see how the French princess Daphne has a love for Maxon, and he's essentially got a wife sort of stood there waiting to be, and he wants to carry on with the process anyway because he's never had feelings for her, even though they've known each other since they were children. The next story is The Guard, and that is about Aspen Ledger, who was America's friend back from her home province and becomes a guard in the palace. You see how he's still trying to win America over, and you also see his relationship start to go with Lucy, who, if you've read the first 4 books, you know they get together. You also find out more about the guard Woodwork and his affair with Marley, who is one of the girls in the selection, and you read more about that process and when they get found out, which is really sort of hard to read but more interesting because they obviously go into more depth about it. That was probably one of the ones that I was least interested in out of them all. And then the last one is The Favourite, and I was really excited to read this one. It's about Marley, and it's told from her point of view. So it sort of flits between two different time periods. It goes from the start of the selection, where she's trying to win over Maxon, but you also see her first interaction with Carter Woodwork, the guard that she obviously falls in love with, and so it goes between then and their first meeting to them being in love and being found out about their affair and getting their caning. Again, it's really hard to read about, but you can see how much they love each other, and that is just what that story really emphasises. I really liked reading more about their relationship and how Maxon helped them to be able to stay in the palace, even when he should have removed their casts and just thrown them out. At the end of The Favourite, obviously there was the rebellion in which the king and queen died, and Maxon becomes king, and you see him and America sitting on their thrones, and he tells them that their punishment has been removed, they can stay in the palace and serve them, and it's just a really nice ending, and it helps tie in how they're able to stay in the palace, because in the air you obviously see that they're still around, but this is sort of that missing link in knowing why they're still there. So those are sort of the 4 main novellas, and then at the end there are a few other little stories and little snippets of things. So you've got scenes from Celeste, which is, Celeste was one of the girls in the selection, and she was sort of the really snooty one. She thought she was above everyone because she came from the higher caste, and she wanted to be a model, and she thought she could get her way with Prince Maxon. And it was interesting to see what she was really thinking during that process, and not just the front that she was trying to put onto the other girls. You at one point see her snap because Maxon basically dismisses her and refuses her affection, and you get the moment where Maxon says that he doesn't want her to be his wife and dismisses her from the palace. So again, that's another interesting sort of viewpoint to read. And then you've got the maid, which is Lucy's point of view, Lucy being America's maid, and then she ends up marrying the guard Aspen Ledger. So you get to see their relationship and how she has doubts when Ledger tells her that he once loved America. Now, the one that I was really excited to read about was the story at the end called After the One, and that follows off after the book The One, where you see Maxon and America are together as king and queen. And I feel actually this could have been a whole nother book afterwards. I would have liked to have seen more of their marriage together, rather than going from them just being married and becoming king and queen to then in the air seeing their children. I would have liked that gap in between being filled. In this book they've been married for 2 years, and America tells Maxon that she's expecting her first baby. And it's really lovely to see them in that little bubble, and see them throwing this party together, but I would have liked to have seen more of their marriage and how they're dealing with those things, and even through America's pregnancy I would have liked to have seen how she was coping with that, rather than just jumping to her having 4 kids all of a sudden. And then finally at the end, Kira Cass explains what happened to some of the other girls that are in the selection, sort of where they are now, what they did after they left the palace, and what jobs they're in, if they've remarried, things like that. That bit didn't interest me too much. I would have personally liked to have known more about Celeste, and when she got home, what did she do then? Did she find another man? Did she go back into modelling? Things like that. But overall, it's a really great book if you want to know about some other characters throughout the series. If there was a particular person that you wanted to know more about, it's a really nice book to read more from that person's point of view. Again, I really like The Queen and The Favourite, and After the One. Those were sort of my 3 favourite bits in this book. So if you've read it, let me know what you think of it. There is one more book in the selection series coming out next May, I believe, called The Crown, which is from Adeline's point of view, so Maxon and America's daughter. So I really can't wait to finish off this series because it's been definitely one of my favourite sort of dystopian fantasy sort of series. And yeah, so that's my review for you today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!